Hello everyone, this is the first video in a series of videos on Microsoft Excel. So in this video, it's going to be short, but I wanted to show you a couple of things that Excel offers and kind of give you a very brief tutorial, just kind of a general overview of what you can do in Microsoft Excel. So when you first open up the program itself, this is what you're going to see. You're going to have an option to go into a blank workbook, which we're going to do in just a couple of minutes. You also have some options to use some of these preloaded tutorials, and they're very, very helpful. So I highly recommend if you want to do something more complex, for instance, pivot tables, I highly recommend starting with something like this. The other thing that I want to point out to you is all these preloaded templates. Much of what you're going to be doing in Excel, whether it's for classrooms, for work, you're going to be able to find something already preloaded. For instance, if you're doing some sort of personal budget, we've got something right there. In fact, you can look in the personal tab if you're looking for things that could be helpful for you at home, personal expenses, monthly budget, a mileage tracker, even if you're trying to lose weight with a calorie amortization schedule, you'll find all these different preloaded templates. Now, what you usually do in a case like this is you select one, you find one that you like, and then you're going to go and hit create. What happens is what you see right here is going to be what populates your spreadsheet, and you're going to have to know how to start to add information into it to make it actually useful for you. Now, it's not too useful right now if you don't know anything about Excel, because this has some charts in it, this has some tables, this has formulas, and you may not really know what to do. It may actually be harder than it looks. So what we usually do is we start with a blank workbook, because at the very least you need to have a foundation. You need to understand what Excel can actually do for you. This is a blank Excel spreadsheet. Each one of these is a cell, okay? And you notice right up here at the top left corner, the name box. Whatever cell I click in, it's going to show you which one it is. It's kind of like that old battleship game that you may have played when you were a kid. So whatever I type in will appear in that cell. Same thing, I can type it right there, or I can type it into the formula bar itself, and it will go into whatever cell is populated or whatever cell is highlighted in a case like that. You'll notice that if you know something about Microsoft Word, you'll have some sort of familiarity with Excel right off the bat because of the ribbon and our tabs up here. These are Microsoft products, so when you think of things like Outlook and Word and Excel and PowerPoint, they are all similar. They're meant to work together. You're meant to be able to kind of integrate each one of these programs into the other one to varying degrees. But at the very least, if you know one, you already have some sort of foundation there. You notice home, insert, page layout, review, view. These are things that you're going to see, for instance, in Microsoft Word. So there's a general kind of understanding. If you know one, you know more than you think you do about Microsoft Excel. So what do you do when you first need to save a file? Let's say you've been working on this for a while, you need to save it. We're going to go to the File tab. This is the backstage view, as they call it. You always start with the Save As. So you're going to click Save As, and then you're going to find a location for your file to go. Now, I highly recommend, again, it doesn't matter if it is for work or for school, having some sort of folder already created so that you can put this information in. All right, whether it's for some sort of weekly calendar for work or it's a personal budget, make sure you have a location for it to be saved somewhere, either on your computer or in the OneDrive, even better, so that you actually know where it is. I have many, many students I've worked with over the years who will just go and save things, and then they forget what they titled it, they forget where they saved it, and then they have to go and try to search for it, and it can be a real pain in the neck. So just remember that. So I want to show you what some of the things you can do with a very, very basic spreadsheet table that I put together. This is kind of a hypothetical on kind of a student breakdown of grades. So I have first names, last names, ID numbers, and then 5 different classes, including an overall grade. What are some of the things I can do with this very basic information? Well, I could right off the bat, I can tell that it's rather rough. I need to clean it up a little bit. Okay, it looks good, but not great. These words are not big enough, or the columns are not big enough for the words themselves. Well, there's a couple things I can do. I can kind of drag them if I want to try to size them. Even easier, though, is I'm going to automatically size them. I'm going to put my cursor in between A and B and double click. Double click. and that's going to automatically stretch my column to the width of the largest word. Not bad. Still, I'd like to change it up a little bit. This is some sort of kind of heading right there, so maybe I want to center that. This is just like in Microsoft Word. Maybe I want to do something else, like I want to change the font size, make it a little bigger. Notice I might need to change these again. But again, just like you would see in Microsoft Word, I can make them bold, I can change the color, all manner of different kinds of things. If I want to do some more stuff, let's say I want to put a kind of some sort of general style on this. Again, very easy to do. I'm going to highlight the entire table and I'm going to go over to the styles and I'm going to go to the More tab and actually look and see how many different kinds of styles I can actually put on this. So let's say I want to get a little more elaborate, so I want to just kind of put kind of a heading right here. I can highlight that alone and go to heading. That's a little smaller, so let's go to with something like that. And then these, I want to go with the general same theme, but let's say I want to kind of give it a little bit more of some sort of color. You see how within about 3 minutes, I was able to take some very basic, boring, frankly, data and make it look rather nice. Now, there's a lot more you can do with it, but this is just the beginning, okay? So what I want to show you, again, in this initial video is that this really isn't that intimidating, or it shouldn't be that intimidating. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to get into, but I'm going to have a number of videos that kind of walk you through each bit. In subsequent videos, we'll talk a little bit about charts and graphs, how we take information like from a table like this and make some really interesting charts and graphs out of it. We'll also talk about formulas and functions and how do I make, for instance, formulas like I do right over here. This is an average formula. How do you do that kind of thing? How do you choose the right one? How do you actually write them? And then we may actually have some videos on some more complex things like pivot tables. And you might find that interesting because you might use pivot tables at some point in the future in a classroom setting or on the job. This is just the introduction, but I hope it gives you a little bit more of a level of comfort when it comes to starting with something like Microsoft Excel. Thanks.